So let's do this. Let's do top 5 portal additions first. I'm going to kick this off. I'm not saying these are 1 through 5. These are just the 5 guys that we think have made the best impact on the program as an incoming transfer portal. Here's the 5 guys I'm going to throw at you. Kevin McCullough, Dedrick Lawson, Malik Newman, Remy Martin, Jeff Withey. Those are my 5. Now, I'm not saying those are the best 5. I'm just saying that those are the 5 that I think have made the biggest impact as an incoming transfer portal from a production standpoint to career standpoint. Thoughts on that, / who do you guys think are the 5 most influential transfer portal additions we have had? And for the sake of this, I'll throw this graphic back up on the screen. Obviously, a couple of these guys are national championship winners. Some had greater impacts than others. Some played longer than others. And yes, I did leave Hunter Dickinson off that, despite the fact that he's a stat stuffer. I think he has impacted the program in a negative manner. So again, my 5: Dedrick Lawson, Remy Martin, Malik Newman, Kevin McCullough, and Jeff Withey.
Yeah. It's a pretty good list. I mean, if I had to pick, my top 5, and they may not be the best 5, I'd have to also say Kevin McCullough. He's definitely one of them. And then Dedrick Lawson has to be my other pick, alongside yours. There's something I want to include Jalen Coleman Lands.
No. I almost asked you to put it back up because I was like, oh, shoot. I was thinking literally that whole time ever since it came off. I was like, oh, shoot, I should have done something really funny, like picking my nose and just. I was like, then you put it back up. I'm like, yes. I was literally. You had that up for a really long time. I was literally like this for like. Whatever that was, 2 whole minutes straight.
That was great.
Anyway.
Good comedy. Good comedic relief there.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Is it my turn? I'm like hardly paying attention.
I said Kevin, Dedrick, and then I was going to bring up Jalen Coleman Lands for a second because, he might be one of the best 6-man guys that I've seen play at Kansas. I mean, do y'all remember the time where Jalen Coleman Lands nearly hit that game-winning shot against Texas on Saturday? Everybody thought he had made it, but he was like half a second late, and we were all like, ah! But it was still like an awesome moment because I thought he had actually made the shot. But I'd have to go Dedrick, Kevin. I want to Malik Newman maybe. I think Malik Newman. I probably have to include him in there. I do agree with Jeff Withey, though. I thought he was really good. And then my last one would be Remy. So nearly similar to Keegan's, but JB, what do you think?
So, okay. I like that. I basically made a starting 5, and my starting 5
we can roll straight into that too.
Let's do that as a segue because my top 5 are a starting 5, a realistic looking starting 5. So, I feel like this should be no shock. It's Remy Martin, it's Malik Newman, it's Kevin McCullough, and at the 4, specifically at the 4, Hunter Dickinson. And I know we just, shat upon Hunter Dickinson all season. I don't care. Like, if you look at the list, and if you try to look at it objectively, I just can't ignore the stats. Look, okay. I got to include him. I can't leave him off. So
he's got some of the best statistical numbers of a 5-man we've seen.
He does. Shout out to Robert. You said, and yes, Hunter. And I think you said it that way because, yes, Hunter.
Derek.
He's there. Yes, I know, Derek. I know, Derek. I know. Yes, Hunt at the 4. You know why? Because you know who's at the 5? Jeff Withey, baby. I love Jeff Withey. And I always have to shout out respect to Jeff Withey.
7-foot white guys in your lineup.
Jeff Withey can't hit a 3. Jeff Withey can block shots. Jeff Withey can get rebounds. Jeff Withey can do everything that we've been criticizing Hunter for not doing all season. That's why Jeff Withey's my number 5.
100%.
So if you put Hunter at the 4, who can actually hit 3s, I really and I really think that if he would have less pressure to get all the rebounds when he's got Jeff Withey standing right next to him. So you've got Jeff, Hunter. I wish I could say Hunter Mickelson, but I took a picture with him once. Love the
Dude,
guy.
I did
That's
that. I told you,
not
I
the
did that
Hunter we're
all
talking
last
about.
year. I kept doing Hunter Dickinson and Hunter Mickelson.
Yeah.
Completely
But
different
yeah,
players.
it's Jeff, Hunter, Kevin McCullough, Malik Newman, and Remy Martin. Dedrick Lawson was kind of like a honorable mention for me, if you will. That's true, Andrew. Jeff Withey is 100% from off of one shot, and I was there for that game, and it was amazing. But Dedrick Lawson, I just feel like if you compare Dedrick to Hunter and Jeff, he's just the worst of the three. That's kind of why I had to leave him out. And I'll say he's the worst of the three because while he might have been a little bit more efficient than Hunter in certain respects, he was just as unathletic because he never dunked either. It drove me crazy. And then I got Zeke Mayo as like an honorable kind of like bench guy off my list.
Yep.
So,
Zeke was my sixth man that I guess we didn't say that, but Zeke was my sixth man.
Also, but the season's not over. It might be over in my eyes, but like, I don't think he can unseat guys like Remy who won a title, guys like Malik who got us, all the way to the Final Four and off of a magical run at that. I don't think if you take out the postseason, Malik Newman probably doesn't make this list, but you have to include the postseason. So that was really good. But yeah, that's my list.
Austin, anything different in your starting five? Like, give me your best starting five of transfer portal players. The best 5-man lineup you can roll out there.
Oh,
I do think this. Yeah, the Dedrick middle pick and roll with Doak. It is a shame that season was taken away from us with Doak's injury.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be similar to what I said in my best 5 transfer players to come out of the transfer portal or to come to KU out of the transfer portal, I should say. But I would definitely, and this isn't in order, but I'd say Dedrick, Kevin, Jeff for sure. I'm also going to add Malik Newman in there. I mean, he was pretty good. And then in the final spot, I'm going to put Remy in there. And then my 6th man, give me Jalen Coleman Lands. I'm not kidding.
Y'all are tripping, bro.
Jalen was a baller.
On one, dude. Yeah, not for us.
Anytime I remember specifically the Iowa State game during the Natty year when we went on the road and won in Ames. And I remember, I don't know who was out or who didn't play in that game, but I know somebody got hurt. I forgot who it was. But I know Jalen Coleman Lands started that game, I believe, and he went off and had like 3 or 4 threes. It made a big difference.
He was a microwave.
Yeah.
Gets hot quick, green light, corner threes, spot up. He was great. I mean, you always need that type of player. I think I would take Zeke, though, just because of shot creation and ball handling. But yeah. I think that's sure. I mean, that's the same starting 5 I have. I wanted to go as much as Hunter's probably the most talented big of the transfer portal guys.
Yes.
Just roster construction to me made it difficult. I'd rather have a defensive anchor in Withey and then a shot creator, stretch the floor 4 in Dedrick Lawson, and then let my guards go out and cook. Like Malik and Remy could both cook. When they get going, they can really get going. And then Kevin's your lockdown, your perimeter defender. There's still a little bit of spacing issues there, but senior year Kevin, I think, could shoot a lot better. Derek also throws out there Remy, Malik, Kevin, Dedrick, Jeff Withey, Hunt, and Zeke off the bench. Yeah, that'd be a nasty 7 right there.
That's very fair.
For sure. Yeah. Obviously, if we wanted to go deeper into this, you could do a lot. But I think to me, as I looked at this, I told these 2 guys off air earlier, to me, your starting 5 really depends on who you play at center. If you're playing Hunter at center, you got to spread them out with shooters. If you play Jeff Withey at center, then you need to have another big man that can score from another spot on the court. And I think if you want to go Tariq Black and go more bruising, I think you could do that too. So I think there's a good argument here. Doesn't mean that these 5-man lineups we throw out there are the 5 best players, but the guys that if we had to put them out there tomorrow, the 5 guys I would trust the most to go get it done, that's who I pick.
So hold on, before we move on to
I didn't say roster construction, but I did say the best 5-man lineup.
Before
Not
we
best
move on
five
to the
overall
duds,
players.
we have to, before we mention the duds, we have to mention our guy, our favorite, Cam Martin. Come on, Keegan. Come on. What about Cam Martin? Look, here's the deal.
Hey, shout out
I know
Cam. He is in the Detroit Pistons G League team and having a pretty decent season.
For anyone that's new to the podcast, we here at KCSA Pod are buddies with Cam Martin, or at least in our fantasy land, we are buddies with Cam Martin. Cam Martin never got his chance to truly shine. Why? Because he was injured his entirety, like the entirety of his career at Kansas. He was injured and just didn't really ever get get off the ground. I mean, it was just kind of like, or I guess he was on the ground. Anyway, but you know what I mean. He was he was going to come in, and we were making predictions at the start of this podcast in its infancy. We were out on here saying Cam Martin is going to be our starting five. He's going to be our starting five man. He's going to be leading this team, and we were dead wrong, but only because of injury. I will always say that it was only because of injury. He's a very talented guy.
So Cam told me himself back then. He told me himself, had he not gotten injured in that walkthrough whatever preseason game with I think it was Illinois, that he was going to be the starting five man at least for the opening night.
This is
I
why.
don't know how that would have gone throughout the year, but ended up, KJ gets the starting five spot. Zuby doesn't take it. Ernest Uday doesn't take it. Zach Clemens doesn't take it. We had five guys that could play the five man, and turns out that nobody was good enough to take it. But yeah, shout out Cam. It would have been fun to see what he could have been with his skill set, because I watched a lot of tape on him after we signed him, and I was like, man, having a stretch five could be really interesting. He didn't quite have the same size you needed out of a true five at the Big 12 and NCAA Division I level, but I think he could have been fun for sure. But all right, now let's get into the I think actually the more fun part of the worst of the transfer portal. So I'm going to throw this graphic back up. For some of you that maybe are newer KU fans that don't recognize some of these names, let's go back a little bit. Tyrone Appleton, back in the 2010 to 2011 season, came in. It was supposed to be a very important piece from the guard perspective. Never really did a ton. Elijah and Tyshawn really locked that down, and there just wasn't any playing time. And then there was Nadir Tharp. So he was here in a flash and gone in a flash. Let's see, guys. Also, Roderick Stewart, throwback. He was the first. Yes, Roderick Stewart was the first transfer into the program for Bill Self. I'm forgetting where he came from off the top of my head, but his brother Lodrick played over at USC. But Roderick Stewart was the first one. You go back a little bit ways there too. Kevin Young back on the 2012 national championship team. A lot of people forget about Dwight Colby and Hunter Mickelson. Two interesting five guys that we brought in. Sam Cunliffe is definitely on one of my lists coming up here in a moment. One of my favorite guys on this list, Justin Wesley, the half brother of Keith Langford. That's really cool. Justin Wesley also, played Wilt Chamberlain in that Jayhawker movie. So throwback there. And then of course Mario Little, another. I think he was a fan favorite. Didn't play a whole lot, but post KU time, he's been on a lot of the fun teams KU's had for the TBT tournament and all that. So a lot of cool names on here. Tyon Grant Foster, another fun one who's actively still playing. JP's over here bored out of his mind waiting for me to So let's do it. Let's get into the biggest portal whiffs outside of AJ Store. Let's go one at a time.
What outside?
JB also, outside. AJ Store probably gets the top because of how the season's gone. Outside of AJ Store, JB, who is your biggest transfer portal whiff? And doesn't necessarily have to be the guy that maybe because I know people could say, well, Roderick Stewart, he didn't do a lot. I'm really talking about the guy that came in, you had true expectations for, and he didn't deliver.
Okay, so because you said outside of AJ Store, I can't actually mention that AJ Store was in my top 5 list of.
Well, you can. We'll do the top 5 in a minute. I just want you to give me your biggest whiff outside of AJ Store.
Outside of him, there's no other answer. Come on, it's Nick Timberlake. Come on. Sorry. It's like, come on. We all thought he was going to come here as like one of the best shooters, if not the best shooter in the transfer portal. We all had high hopes that he would carry us to a natty. It was just awful. And I know, despite how awful he was, we all cheered like crazy when he actually played a decent game, which wasn't very often. But he had his moments. Nick Timberlake was god awful though, and I just can't see any other name other than AJ Store. It's like AJ Store and Nick Timberlake. It's funny that they're both very recent names. I think that's part of the like fuel to the fire when you talk about just the overall depression that Kansas fans are facing these days. But it's Nick Timberlake by a mile. I think there's other names that come to mind that were just underwhelming. I don't know if you want, I can go through my list.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go straight into give me your 5-man group of whiffs.
I saw earlier, Derek, I'm going to post this. You said you included Joe Yesufu in here. I do not have Joe Yesufu on my list. I was battling. I was going back and forth. Maybe my memory is fuzzy, but I feel like I was ultimately more just annoyed with Chuck Moore. Like I thought Chuck was, Charlie, good old Charlie. He was a big just letdown. Every time I watched him, I just felt like I was just so pissed off. It was Charlie Moore. It was Nick Timberlake. Sam Cunliffe never developed into anything for us. We thought he would. And I'm going to throw, because I was making lineups, I'm going to throw Dwight Colby in here as just an overall. Like you look at the list, he's probably one of the worst 5 guys or just big men in general. That's our transfer list, but I have honorable or like bench guys, 6th and 7th man on here. KJ Lawson, who never really did much for us, but also I'm going to add Tyon Grant Foster into this list, and I'm going to say Tyon Grant Foster because although he developed into a wonderful talent, it wasn't with us. He might have had a couple flashes at best. He was awful for our program, and then he just essentially became irrelevant, and that's why he transferred away. Tyon Grant Foster, I wish he would have been what he is now for us back in the day, but when we're talking about KU,
I think he'd fit perfect on this roster right now.
Now he would, yeah, but back in the day, no.
All right, Austin, give us your 5-man group of portal whiffs.
Well, to start off, Nick Timberlake, obviously one of them. I see some comments though. Oh, Joe Yesufu. Listen,
Hey,
I kind of like Joe Yesufu. Not gonna lie. Yeah, granted, some of the best games he had were during some of the losses that KU had with him while he was here. I totally get it. But hey, he's doing really well at West Virginia, and he got his revenge, unfortunately, on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
So good for him. My 5 worst players that come out of the transfer portal come to KU, though. Timberlake, definitely one of them. Charlie Moore, obviously. I'm just kind of, looking through the list. I mean, Sam Cunliffe, yeah, I'd probably throw him in there as well. Y'all mentioned Tyon Grant Foster. He's a great player at GCU, but he didn't really develop into the player that we wanted to have and everything. So I'd probably throw him in there as well. And then did I mention Charlie Moore already?
Yeah. To me, Charlie Moore and Joe Yesufu are the same player. They're both small guards that were supposed to come in and shoot well, and neither did.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Screw it. I mean, I guess I'll throw Joe Yesufu in there too. But I do appreciate Joe Yesufu for I guess like I've kind of entered into a world where I've started to appreciate what Joe Yesufu was and did for KU at times.
He had his moments.
But in all seriousness, if we're talking about the biggest portal whiffs, I mean, unfortunately, I'm going to have to throw Joe Yesufu in there as well to make that 5. So
does it go AJ Store 1, Nick Timberlake 2?
I think so.
Who's number 3?
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't include AJ Store because Keegan said outside of AJ Store, obviously, but
See, to me, once you get to number 3, I think that's where it gets tough because I look at the big guys on here.
Charlie.
Dwight Colby, Hunter Mickelson were very underwhelming, but they really weren't brought in to be much more
Yeah.
than an average role player. So to me, it's a hodgepodge group of wings. Your Tyon Grant Foster, your Sam Cunliffe. Sam Cunliffe, stupid, talented athlete, tremendous shooter, dropped 50 on people at the rec all the time because I was at KU during that stretch. Couldn't do anything on the court, never really got run play time. Transferred to Evansville and was a baller. Charlie Moore, Joe Yesufu. It's a really ragtag group of guys. Not, I mean, there's the point of doing all this was to help fans that are really frustrated with the AJ Store to realize that sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. But as I look at this list, I'd say a good half of the list are guys we hit on pretty well, and half of the list were guys that underperformed. So you average that out, you're not going to get the best transfer year in and year out, and not everyone's going to perform at a high level. To me, what I notice is the group of guys that have underperformed have a lot of similarities, and it's the fact that they play a certain play style, and then they come here, and that play style doesn't just smoothly integrate into a Bill Self system.